Episode 16, Unification Party headquarters, co-host Adrian Blizzard. Welcome
I,
everybody. The last show we had, we did a live update while the election was finishing. I guess we were a little sour how it was just all of a sudden at the stroke of whatever it was, 11 o'clock, it was all over in 1 second, and a liberal minority, possibly majority, was called. So here we are after the dust has settled a few days later, and Adrian's going to open it up with Canadian politics. Go.
lots and nothing at the same time going on. I think a lot of chatter going on in the Canadian political realm since the election has kind of been like, what's Pierre going to do? Is Pierre going to go? Is Pierre going to stay? I even heard there was like an MP, I think in Edmonton, that offered to give Pierre his seat. I don't know if that's a thing that's allowed. But I would also say it's definitely a defeat for the Conservatives, but there is a lot of W's like to be found in it. Like, for example, highest voter turnout for the Conservatives since 1988, I believe, or 89.
Mulroney, apparently, right?
Yeah, so that says something. They got more votes than they did when they won the majority last time. So, I mean, there's a lot of W. There's also, I mean, stuff going around about people questioning the election. It's a new thing in the West now. Everyone likes to question elections. I guess it's whatever. But I mean, there's always time to question everything I say and have a good conversation. Never hurt nobody. I don't know if you've seen any of the clips though. There is a couple clips going around. Like one of them of this like poll worker just describing like what he experienced. Like he was working in Durham. Did you hear about this fella?
No,
Yeah,
tell me more.
so he was working in Durham. What he was supposed to do that night was basically like he worked at the place where all the boxes of votes came in from the different polling places, and he was going to like authorize like the proper transfer, like make sure that nothing was tampered with, whatever. But basically, what he said was that like they were there and like the CTV had already called Durham before anybody arrived with votes. So he just like went home early because he's like, I don't know why I'm staying here till 1. Like they've already called the riding and like there's no votes, kind of something's weird or whatever. Supposedly also that day, like Elections Canada was like impossible to get a hold of pretty much like all day. There's like a couple things like that. There's another story from a poll worker in Kelowna, just who had like a litany of abnormalities. Like the most important one would probably be the poll worker said that like they saw a lot of people requesting to vote in pen while they were working. And later that day when the votes were being tallied, he noticed, or she, I'm not certain, that none of the votes that were being counted were in pen. And according to this person, like a good chunk, like if not half of the voters were requesting to use a pen they had brought. So that was just, again, there's a lot of little things.
Do you not think just dealing with that one particular one with the votes, half pen weren't count? Do you not think that would show up they would have historical voting patterns, and all of a sudden there'd be, in that one particular riding, there would be a significant dip in voter turnout? Like, I mean, that seems to be, if it was something that would change the outcome, it would probably be more noticeable, those absence of votes, mathematically.
Well, again, there was a litany of issues. For example,
I understand.
There was a whole
But
apartment complex where Elections Canada didn't know it existed. So there was because the guy's like, I went over and asked this person because I noticed many people getting turned away. So I don't know the size, but I'm picturing like 200 people, 300 people living in this apartment. If they got that into the air, like, I don't know. I'm just throwing out there what I'm hearing. I mean, the pen thing.
I'm hearing what you're saying. I don't think it's. I don't think these are all.
Well, my bigger one would be if the fella in Durham is sincere and honest, and like he was at the place where the votes were being counted, and not a single vote had arrived, and they'd already called it. And again, this is just one of the many stories and whatnot. It's like, it's not like that's all this person said, and then they're like, well, they basically he left and went right to a parking lot and he did a TikTok. So again, it is what it is. I mean, exactly like. But there's also another point.
Can I respond? Can I respond for 1 second?
Absolutely.
Okay. So before you go on with the list of the litany of.
Oh, I was done.
Okay. Just as a critical thinker, right? Yes, there's going to be a certain number of anonymous source stories. So, not saying which are which. So, a certain number we throw away.
Mhm.
Then, a certain number are people with malice or intent and to deceive because they want to make liberals look bad or get more clicks on a website or whatever. Then there's probably, they say don't attribute to, uh, you know, evil intent, what can be attributed just to incompetence, right? Like maybe the guy, one of the places that boxes of votes were supposed to be dropped to was this place, but things got confused. So all the trucks went to the other place, and there again,
Hey, buddy, I'm
and,
not.
and
I'm not.
is, yeah,
I'm,
I'm not suggesting that you are suggesting that these are real. I'm just saying they're not, for one, they're to be expected. And if at least if we had voter machines in, I don't want to say the name of the company that has the electronic tabulating voting machines from
yeah,
the
Domino
South.
Pizza, Domino
Yeah,
voter machine.
whatever they are. Yeah. Um, I can't afford the $1 billion lawsuit if
Oh,
I,
we're done. It's over.
yeah,
We
it's
hint
over
it.
for us.
Yeah.
So anyhow, if we had those, at least you could go to OWEF and, Klaus Schwab paid Epstein's ex lover, George Soros's son or something. And, and all tabulations behind the scenes. But with our boring old paper ballots and whatnot, I don't see election integrity by the time we get to the ballot stage as being an issue. I would say the way more interesting thing to talk about and the way more relevant thing would be how does the media, the psyops, the WEF, the Bilderbergs, the county,
Atlantic
whatever,
Council. Yeah.
how do they steer the ship like before the election? So they don't need to tamper with the election if everybody, like I saw a guy today came into my place. I've known the guy for years, totally sane, sensible, cool guy for years. All of a sudden he says, were you happy about the election outcome? I said, well, I'm a little more. And the guy was so thrilled. The guy was so pro Carney. The guy was so anti-Trump. And then I heard him go, and I could see his like veins in the side of his head. Like his wife had to tell him to like calm down, guy. And I
Just because you
just,
weren't. Just because you weren't 100% on his bus.
well, he wasn't mad at me. He was just like, or he wasn't, but he was just he had the just being in the topic, he couldn't help but like
Get
working
heat.
himself up into a lather, right? Let alone if I even bothered to say, oh, actually, I have the Unification Party, and I'm
I
interested
want to
in
separate to America.
unite. I didn't, as he was a customer and I need his business. It was better for me to just, keep my politics out of it. But
Mm.
it was
Be
it was
cool.
co- it was comical to me that I was like, for one, that this guy could be so enraged, and two,
Well,
here's what I'm getting at. This guy has been like, he was started going off like Trump was going to kill our children and Peter Hegseth is going to murder our mothers, and like, I'm exaggerating, of course. These are not the things he was saying,
oh,
but
okay.
I'm being overly dramatic. His list of the things we've all heard, like Trump's Hitler, this and that, and Canada's this, and Danielle Smith will never break Canada up because the land belongs to the Indians, and I heard from the Superior Court judge, and like
So
it was like,
he's he
yeah, he
reads.
was he was bringing the heat about all this like nonsense and how we were going to become an energy superpower under Carney, and he's like a real sensible, cool dude and whatnot. But fortunately, I had another customer to deal with, so we could send him on his way merrily, and I'll be happy to see him again. But I just can't believe what happened. Like, I'm not worried, like I said, about the ballots. I'm worried about the media feed before, yeah, feeding the fear narrative. Like, it's funny how Pierre is Pierre has been cast as the, like, I would cast him as the boring candidate, but the media and his detractors have cast him as the, he was on a, like, he was, it was negative American style politics and negative and this and that. Yet all I saw from Carney's side of the thing was, it was like America back. Like, it
Trump's
was
not going to
that.
push me around.
Yeah, yeah. It was Pierre's level of negativity times three, just directed at the great Satan, Trump himself, south of the border, and everybody completely fell in love with that. And somehow the narrative was spun that Pierre was the
Yeah,
negative candidate.
it's gaslighting. It's gaslighting's kind of been the new thing. People
Uh,
love it.
they
When
love
you're
they
doing
love they love
something,
the whiff of the gas, for
if you're
sure.
doing something bad and you get caught, and you blame that person who caught you for doing what you're doing, it blows their mind, and you win. You automatically win now.
Yeah,
It's
but both sides say that about both sides. Like, it's not like they both say, "Oh, this
but
whatever
when
whatever
it comes,
you can lob at the left can lob at the right, and both will be correct." So those are
I
not.
would say so. I would say that the most boring part of the whole election story. Have you heard about any of this Doug Ford drama or Tim Houston drama regarding the Premier of Nova
I
Scotia and the Premier of Ontario, like their drama with Pierre Poilievre?
I didn't hear about the other two dudes' involvement. I mean, I did see some headlines about Ford was like he betrayed conservatives in Ontario and
Yeah, he
whatnot,
told his
but
lieutenants not. One of his lieutenants was told that not to help the PCs. I think that's actually that kind of hit me today, where I kind of thought that like I think like the conservatives are like herding cats sometimes. You know what I mean? Like everybody is they're hard to, whereas like you show me like the Trudeau government would have had Hugo Chavez over if he was still alive and like paraded him around Ottawa. You know what I mean? Like the lefties love getting together and then yelling at you if you ever get together with other people from other parts of the world who agree with you politically and calling you crazy for doing it. But they love it. And like the right, like I don't know, if you, one of the terms that I want to say disgusts me, but like in Canadian politics is red Tory, like the liberal conservative, right? And apparently, like a lot of people are saying Doug Ford and Tim Houston are red Tories, and like because like apparently Houston right away after Pierre like lost or like he was doing a meeting in Nova Scotia and like he put out his video and like it seems like I don't know. It just seems like jackals, more or less. Like they're kind of like trying to like fight. I don't know. Like they shouldn't be fighting. Like in my mind, it's kind of like the same thing's going on down in the States with the Israel question. It's getting the conservatives to kind of like turn on each other. Like everyone's kind of like, oh, I don't like what Jordan Peterson and Douglas Murray are saying, or oh, I don't like. You know, I think America should be non-expansionist, or they should be helping other people. But I mean, I just think that's like I said, it's the most boring story. Like it's silly and it's ridiculous. Like if Pierre like did say that and like don't help the PCs, then like okay, Mr. Ford's got a point. But at the end of the way, even if he is right, like there's a more gentleman way to handle it. Like he kind of seemed like an angry kid in a schoolyard just talking about it when it's kind of like let's just all get along. You know, I mean, we kind of share similar. I would just assume that the just upsets me to see the conservative parties in Canada not being more friendly. Where you know what I mean? Where the left, whether it was federal, municipal, or provincial, they would love to go out to dinner together all the time. You
they
know,
joined together. They joined together to in a lot of ways to defeat
or whether doing a big
the
bill like
conservatives.
yeah. So
I mean,
well,
that's
that's another
business as usual. They do, and here we
one.
are. Are they going to cross the floor? There's my question to you.
The
You think
NDP,
they can get four NDP to cross the floor?
without a shadow of a doubt. Without a shadow of a doubt. And to be honest, that's the lesser of two evils. Because if it's not that, it's Quebec holding us hostage. Because it's the Bloc who already said they would work with them too, just basically being like, as long as it works out better for Quebec, we will sign it. No oil, like so. Quebec will just keep winning, and the rest of Canada will just get sucked dry. So I don't want that either. To me, that's just terrible for unity and dominion. to
So
keep.
you rather Elizabeth May goes over to the cabinet position, which the idea has been floated around, and then three other NDPs or four ND, whatever the exact number needs to be.
I wouldn't rather it. It's just inevitable.
Why is it? Do you think it's inevitable? Would that betray the NDP party forever? Nobody would have faith in it? Or is it like I
Well,
said last week? This is the inevitable, like where we're going more. Apparently, I was listening to something today that said if you take the popular vote and put it all together, it's almost a 50-50. Like it's neck and
supposedly
neck.
there actually was a riding in Ontario where the Liberals and Conservatives got the same amount of the vote, like 43.1 and 43.1 or something like that. But
So it seems to be there's like a bifurcation across the world, which we talked about before.
yeah,
Is that happening here? And then, is the
without a doubt.
NDP done? Is it done though? Will it be
No,
absorbed?
will it be? Are its glory days behind it? Yeah, yeah. You know what? It might very well be done actually, because now that you say that, like I was thinking, like socialists have no scruples because like they're not even real socialists. Like if you were a true socialist, you'd be against immigration because your idea is you want to be able to provide the right amount of bounty for your people, and in order to do that, you can't have the door open because there's less and less food on the plate if people keep walking through that door. If you're a true socialist, you know what I mean. So they're like every so I think they sold out, just like a lot of the parties on the left did to corporations over the last 10 years. And
Yeah, but
I think,
that's the
yeah, the
same. That's
NDP
the
is
same
done.
both ways.
No, I feel it's not the conservatives selling out, it's the Democrats. I got you. But yeah, no, I think the NDP is done. And especially if that happens, if 3 or 4 members genuinely, because like I heard somebody today being like, if the NDP people do that, like they're never getting elected again. And it's like, well, not necessarily because
Well, apparently the Liberals weren't ever going to get elected again, and here they are with a few seats out of a majority.
well, I think the only thing that would determine the 4 people that move, it wouldn't be what's going on in that like that the ridings that they live in. It would be federally. If the Liberals are still doing what those people in that riding think is a good job, then the new Liberal candidate is just going to get voted for anyways. They don't care if she used to be NDP. And some of the NDP people might be like, I like Linda. So
No,
now they're voting.
but they don't need to wait till the next election. They can cross the floor tomorrow.
I understand. I know. And that's why, like, even the threat is like, they're never going to get elected again. It's like, yeah, the election just happened. So they got 4 years. What do they care? Like, why not? And they could probably have more prominence as opposed to just being a nobody backbencher. You're like now like an integral part of the majority government who needs to be appeased.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose if you were like, I'm just putting myself in the position. Like, I imagine, okay, let's say I'm one of these NDPs. I have scruples of some sort, but my main scruples are to my constituents.
That's what she's, yeah.
Would I trade or could I trade my like the welfare, let's say for a big project or this or that
Without a
to
doubt.
sell out? I don't know. Maybe.
It depends on the individual person, but from what I've seen when it comes to politics, even in the last just 100 years in the West, like it worked. That's what's going to happen. That's what I mean. Like the machine gets what it wants.
Hmm.
A
But
fun
what
note:
did we predict?
we were pontificating. I don't recall, but we were pontificating. I think a conservative minority. We were pontificating though about the PPC and did they have any effect in the old election? We looked it up on one of our last shows, and this election they actually took 3 ridings from the Conservatives. Brampton North would have went to the Liberals like by like 200 votes. 350 people voted for the PPC. And there was like 2 other ridings like that. That 41.41 where they were both tied. That would have been one. So the PPC's like, if Pierre stays on as leader, he needs to bring the PPC back into the fold. Full stop. Like that's just
Okay, but wait a second. Okay. So if we decide that for most of the places, or
And if I
there's
may real
two,
quick, like just on that note of Pierre bringing him back in, I also think that would allow him to actually go more conservative and kind of so what? I'm like Trump. Yeah, I like jobs. I like Canada. He likes America. I like Canada. What's wrong with being more like the guy who likes his
well,
country?
we
Yeah, I
said
love
that.
Canada.
We said that. He should have leaned
If he
into it.
just dove into that, not saying like get on Trump's dick, but like just don't be ashamed to be compared to another conservative. Be proud and just be even more conservative and be like, you know what? I wish I was more conservative, but like we're not going against abortions because we respect the wishes of the country. And like we have that conversation, as much as I'm a strong believer against it personally, That conversation ended in Canada a long time ago. That statement needs to be made by the leader of the Conservative Party in Canada, because that abortion boogeyman comes up every election, and it gets them an extra 3% of the vote, or minimum, because a lot of women are single issue voters.
Yeah, well, putting that issue to bed once and for all. Like I didn't hear much talk about it this election, though,
It did
being an
come up
issue at
though.
all.
Yeah, because what happened is it came up during the French debates, because Carney was saying that Pierre is going to use the notwithstanding clause not only for prisoners but to take your right to abortion away. Sorry. But
Yeah,
yeah, back to
well, I
the
have
PPC
some.
thing you were pondering there. What were you thinking? You're right. They still wouldn't have had a government, but they would have. The Liberals would have had 3 less seats. So that
No, but I,
the
I was
NDP,
just saying. Well, okay, but it's still that doesn't tip the election. But okay, but it's still a good point. But I'm just saying, you have two ideologies, conservative, progressive, more or less. But on the left, so to speak, you have two established parties that they are always like the NDP is always nipping at the Liberals' heels, stealing their far leftish voters, right? Or a portion of their voters. So there should almost be, if you wanted to be like, creating this idea of fairness or a true battle of the two sides, then the PPC party should exist, right? There should be like two parties versus two parties. I mean, they even have the Greens they're mostly lefties as well. So, I mean,
yes,
you
but
get you
if I
get what I'm
may,
saying?
I get what you're saying, and I get what you're saying, because I remember as a young person when I was a socialist, and I loved the NDP. I didn't like that. I was like, because I think what happened was the Alliance Party, after being the Reform Party, joined the Conservative Party, and as a socialist at the time, I was upset because of exactly what you're saying. I was like, they're all unified. The monopoly men, they're all working together, and like us hardworking youth are just getting stomped on by the oligarchy. And I didn't like that. But I will say, like, as a young person, you want things to go quick and go quick. But as you get older, you realize that like the point of our system of government is so that things really don't go quick. Because you want that gradual, you want the Titanic getting into port. You don't want to fly in, you gotta slow, you gotta ease it, and we're trying to make people equally miserable and equally happy with every decision. We're trying to make the most amount of people to balance it out. We don't want, all the happiness over here and like this many people miserable. So I kind of looked at it like, there would be times when if the Liberals were a true centrist party, like they should be, like they were and have been, there should be times, let's say they're in government and as a minority, where they would work with the Conservatives on some legislation, and then they would go work with the NDP on some legislation and kind of like find that balance between the best of both worlds. But now, with what you're saying, I think it's not so much on the NDP being shitty. I think it's more so on the Conservatives, the Liberals just driving straight to the left. You are right. Like the NDP don't serve a purpose anymore.
Yeah. I don't see how that works. And why, and I just think I don't know, the battle of good and evil, light and darkness is coming to,
Theater near you.
yeah. And but there's an energy, there's a vibe in the world right now. Like they've said before, I think I heard that something like 50% or over 50% of the Earth's population is voting in the year 2025, like we are. I mean, the US just finished, but it's like a huge number of countries, and this is happening all over. There's conspiracy theories abounding that in every country, there's, like we talked before about George Cescu in Romania and other populist people taking prominence and then sort of, being
That's not a
knocked
conspiracy. That's
down.
the European Union arresting an elected prime minister.
Oh, well, yes, for sure.
Because they
But I
didn't like
mean,
him.
yeah, but the conspiracies related to, all of these sort of
Why? Why is it
background
happening?
movements. Yeah, exactly.
Well, there was an
Or
interesting
is it
Tucker.
coordinated from country to country?
There's municipal elections going on in England, and that seems to be a big deal because it looks like the Conservatives are going to win, and everyone's like, kind of like, it felt in England like the Conservatives like, you fooled us. We voted for you guys for the last 20 years, and you're the Liberals. Like, can you please not be the Liberals this time? Basically, so there's kind of that. But Tom's doing such a bad job. They're probably going to vote them back in as well. I heard Tom is going to meet in the EU because, like, basically, there's like all this talk about with the Ukraine and how they more or less like Obama and the EU want to kind of undo Brexit, like bring England like back into the fold as part of this like united front, like against Russia, and I guess as a bulk work against the United States too in some way. I would assume. So that'll be interesting to see if Stama tries to undo Brexit. Like that would be. There's already talk of like Cromwellism coming back to England. Like Oliver Cromwell, like I believe overthrew the monarchy at one point or declared war on the king. And I don't know. It's the government. Sorry. And they were talking about like well, couldn't King Charles just like step in, and like. But then I don't know if you heard like on a cultural note, King Charles in his Easter address.
No.
Well, I'm pretty sure it didn't talk about Jesus, and he mentioned like the some Islamic, like Arabic words, like multiple times, like and so like it looked very like a slap in the face to Christianity. Was my takeaway. I don't have it right up here in front of me, but
Well, I know a lot of people are complaining about the immigrants and Islamization of England. I don't know how true it is. Just like I don't know how true. Like I even listened to, again, back to Canadian politics here. I listened to the critics who I more or less would be aligned with, and they still go overboard. They still get it wrong. They still report too quickly on weird fake news. So they show bad photos. I mean, I even see guys that are like Viva Fry. I saw him repeating something that I thought was pretty, you know, well, not outlandish. I just think pretty much has been proven that that was like, how like you can say like Trump's when he says something, we'd say, well, that's hyperbole. And I would often criticize people when they hear Trump, like they've forgotten how normal people speak. Like, but we have to also hold ourselves to that standard when we're listening to,
other
what Carney says.
people
Yeah,
you
and
just
like
you dislike,
people
yeah.
you dislike. Yeah, like do I just all of us? And it seems like it's very easy to fire up to emotion level 8.
Well, the thing with
And
Viva Fry,
easily
if I may,
misinterpret.
I agree with everything you're saying. But on that note about Viva, because he's gets very passionate, and he has, especially since he's moved to Florida, and I think he just kind of is like passionate, like he just kind of loves like the ideals, like what brought him to Florida, and now he's kind of got that bit of independence there and whatnot, and seeing like the benefits of being an American. And I think he's just kind of like me and you, where it's just like, come on, Canadians, like wake up, like this is like it's a good thing. Like there's more benefits to being an American citizen than there is a Canadian one, like especially economic, let alone like liberty wise.
Well, what do you think Alberta's going to do?
Well, I think Alberta is they've already got the petition going. So Danielle Smith passed that legislation, right? So Danielle Smith passed some legislation amending Jason Kenney's legislation regarding like citizens petitions. So she lowered the bar for votes signatures needed, and they're already out. I think they're at 125,000 or something earlier today. I don't know
So
exactly.
100%. I mean, there's going to be a referendum. I'm sure there's the appetite to at least get that going.
Yeah, and
So
I think
that's going to happen.
and
And
like
then
I
what
was
happens?
well, like I went over the legal parts of the Westminster parliamentary system that we are under and what we have to do here and all that, because it is in our charter that it could happen legally. But you got to think like, what is it, 170 billion barrels of oil? Like Carney might be a carbon guy or not. Like he's not going to be like, why? Like nobody is. Like, and technically it's the king's oil, right? Because Canada belongs to the king.
Okay,
So
but let's forget because we're living the real world, right? And everything makes right, and treaties and whatever, nothing matters, right? So if Alberta expressed its interest to become independent and Canada said no, and Trump was pro Alberta's independence, and then Alberta continues to tariff free sell its oil to the south and not remit its transfer payments to Ottawa and just act in an independent way. What is King Charles going to do? Is he going to march over here? It's the king's oil. That's my oil. No. And neither is Carney in Canada going to, like, it'll be tied up in courts and this and that. But ultimately, if Alberta has the willpower, what is anybody going to do?
well, for starters, as it stands right now, it's Alberta, but I think the question will start becoming not only should Alberta leave, and not only should Saskatchewan leave, but hey, how about we both leave and start our own thing, and then maybe we'll just secede to the United States.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what we're talking about, whether it's independence or ultimately succession. I mean, I heard a guy speaking today, and he was saying that he was adamant. There was some tweets, and there seemed to be some effort behind an effort to separate the two and not divide the vote between there's a certain amount of people who like the idea of Albertans independence and lump Saskatchewan or whatever, or a Western independence.
Wexit.
And then there's a certain number of people who like the idea of going to the United States. But regardless, you would need to get to the independent state first. And so they're saying quit muddying the waters with becoming a state. Let's stick with independence, which has the greatest appeal to the greatest number of Albertans. So I agree with that. Like that's a smart move. And also for this conversation for a moment, let's forget about succession to the United States as the ultimate goal. We're just going to talk about for a second step one, rallying the Western exit.
Well, if I may, I
Please.
I saw a picture today that kind of summed it up because Alberta doesn't get apparently like the Maritimes get a bunch of more seats than they are.
It's crazy. It's crazy. The West gets like 6, and Nova Scotia has like 12, and
Yeah. Oh wait, that was the vote share. My apologies. Where is the arrow button? This is it right here. Like that. This is for just Senate seats. But like even with the like that's just senators. Like New Brunswick's 10 senators. Like Nova Scotia's 10 senators. All these guys 6, 4 for PEI, which is just wild. And then yeah, like the MPs, like the Maritimes get get more senators just because of the representation. And then I thought of that and I was like, okay, like if you were to give Alberta say more seats, I think that means we're probably giving downtown Toronto more seats too, aren't we? And
yeah,
that's like, well, how is it?
Sure how it works, but I remember looking at the map of before and the number of MPs that are represented. Like the West is inarguably underrepresented.
Yeah,
And I mean, there's historical reasons why out here in the East that historically this number of seats, this is where the seat of its power was. So I get it, but that needs to be updated.
well, they're talking about leaving. So I think, yes, it needs to be updated at a bare minimum. As at least maybe a friggin' olive branch to be like, hey, you're equals.
Yeah.
Like, and maybe Quebec could say thank you for all the money. We're going to start accounting for our hydropower the same way you account for your oil and not run the books so that we get more money from you. Like, fudge fudge the numbers.
So this guy today was loving the idea that had been convinced full-heartedly that Carney was the man who was going to lead us to Canada. Like he was almost had evangelical zeal that we were going to be like an energy superpower. And I just wondered how do those, like a guy who's so committed to not energy, does he betray everything he's ever stood for? Or have we been duped? Or is Trump's best friend? I mean, none of it's making sense.
So I saw an interview. Do you know who the first interview Carney did? It was with the BBC in England. And he's over there. And basically the reporter asked him about the Trump thing. And then Carney's like, oh, well, we'll talk to him when the time is right. And in my mind, and in like, you're just kind of like, you think Trump's like, where do you think you are on Trump's list? Like of things he's got on his plate. You know what I mean? Like, let alone like just the hubris where you're like, I'm not saying like on bended knee you should be at the Detroit border right now asking to come in and chit chat, but like a little bit of that, like something like that. Like if the news was, imagine the news was new Canadian Prime Minister rents out top floor of hotel in Washington for 2 weeks as he vows to stay until the job is done. I think there's a way you could spin that being like, all right,
I would actually respect that.
right, like this guy means business.
Yeah, and he knows it's serious.
So like,
I
so for
don't.
me, and he's also like he's over there in England talking about like maybe like we only have 3% of our trade that's like tariffed and like but there's a way to expand more. Like we could work on that. Work and like we could even work on like more military agreements. And you got to think like during World War II, Canada had the third largest navy. Did you know that?
I've heard things of that nature.
Like, what do you mean military agreements? Like England's the boss. If they go to war, we're going to war. Like we're a part of the Commonwealth. Like where have you been? Like we don't need any. We got the best military agreement you could have with the United Kingdom. It's like we got your back. Like it's in the car. You got our like we don't even need to. What do you mean military agreement? Like get out of here. We already have that. Or if we don't, then it's ridiculous. Like I'm sure we do. So it's just more fluff. Is all I'm trying to point out.
But
So
that's all it is. That's all it is. Like, what did I see today? They got rid of the budget cuts, made it necessary to get rid of essentially, I don't know, some huge number of public servants. Okay, and being potential or intentionally vague. And then this, my point being is the system all around is being starved of money. It's being starved of GDP and productivity. And it doesn't matter the number of promises that Carney makes about military arrangements or military spending when we don't have the skilled tradesmen to work in, building Navy ships, or we've offloaded, production capabilities to other countries for the last number of years. We have no young kids going in. They can't leave their basements, let alone go into any sort of serious trades.
yeah, well to seem.
What are they going to build? Like, they're already laying off, like I said, and Alberta leaves. You've got, I saw this Nova Scotia, apparently their governmental budget is like $12 billion and $4 billion of it comes from Alberta. So what happens out here in the East Coast when
Well, that's why it's like what are we the next Ukraine? Because exactly.
we are? I'll be taking off to the Ukraine to avoid.
Um, Another. Well, I don't know if you saw Bloomberg today was talking or yesterday about there was an announcement made by Brookfield, one of the LLCs, Brookfield LLC, about like we're going to expand our investment in the American manufacturing sector. And you're just like, oh, of course you are, because as a Canadian, I would like to just go work in the American manufacturing sector, whether it's like selling the part or whatever. Like, can I do that? No, but you can make your millions of dollars while you sell us some hydrocarbon BS.
Yeah, I don't.
Maybe we could change our party, like where we try and convince both Canada and America, just like whatever, as like the great trade. Like if you can find an equal American who's willing to trade places with you, you can like swap places. Like because it's like let's all
like a Red Rover.
yeah. Why don't you come over?
Yeah. We'll go up to the border. We'll link arm in arms, and and the people we want, we'll let them. Like you wanted the people on your team, you'd let them break through, right? Or can't remember how it worked. You close and the kids you hated.
I think that's the thing is I think with a system like that, there's got to be something for both countries getting people who want to be there.
Well, I would think, yeah, like
Just in general, it would got to be better for the community, and whatever butterfly effects it will have, it will just be more positive.
like a pen pal in the United States. Like I would write to some sort of inner city lesbian who's so sickened by Trump's presidency. And
Well, it would be a thing where people would stand near borders, be like looking to switch places, and then you just like pick people up like hitchhikers. But yeah, I don't know.
Well,
It
it's
just
not,
seems.
well, I don't want to leave where I am. I mean, only because I like what's happening. But I mean, if I had, I would say if I could go, if I was back in time and all of North America, or at least America and Canada, was open to me when I was making my decision to move somewhere, I probably would have moved somewhere in the States, almost 100%.
Well, I was thinking about that today, and I think the biggest fear for most Canadians is healthcare. And it's not like, oh no, we don't know how private healthcare works. It's just that like we've kind of lived our whole lives paying taxes into the system. That like I think I heard from a girl one time who works in healthcare that like you use like 80% of your healthcare in like the last 2 years of your life or something like that, like your cost on the system. So I think that's the biggest fear for most Canadians is like, ugh, kind of made my decisions based upon the subsidized healthcare being there when I need to call it in, I guess. I don't know. But I don't know. It would be nice if Trump did something because I think, like, back to the legal framework, like I mentioned in our earlier episode about what happens if Alberta separates. I think if the referendum passes, what's Trump's tweet the next day going to look like? Is he going to, like, be, welcome home, you cherished SOBs? Like, if you want to, like, come on down,
Well,
like,
that's the negotiation, right? Like he shot for Canada and ends up, you know,
getting
yeah,
just the oiling and the conservatives. Oh, no. America just got two more American conservative senators and, like, yeah, 11 more Republicans in the House and two Democrats. Well, to end all that oil? All right. Yeah. But I just think that also would just be the end of Canada.
well, it sounds like it'd be bad news for Nova Scotia.
All the Maritimes. Quebec would have to change, but like I think Quebec would be fine.
But who would accommodate Quebec going forward with their language BS?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it might come to reality when like they got to start ponying up the twice the ink for all the extra printing. I don't know. Quebec is kind of like you don't want to threaten Quebec with hanging out alone. They're like, don't threaten me with a good time. I will not talk to any of you. We will sit here and do our tourism and our logs, and we'll be just fine. Don't you worry about our language us. But
You might be right.
I mean, maybe it would bring Quebec closer to the rest of Canada because they'd have to be more of an economic powerhouse, and we probably have to develop north. That's the thing. We're not like Jordan. We don't have like 5 square kilometers of country. We got a massive country. We got technology advancing. We can figure. We can set up some Bitcoin farms in Yukon, and
And it's crazy though. No, it becomes a matter of infrastructure,
I
right?
get it
Yeah. No, you don't. We don't. None of us get it. Like it's just
exactly.
there's no amount of just like, oh, we're gonna throw Bitcoin farms up, and especially now under, you're to be even more sympathetic to zero. I mean, he even said in his speech there, like countries were gonna have to, Carney saying countries would have to be ethical and carbon neutral if they even want to do business with Canada, and we're gonna pay green taxes and whatever just to buy any product rolling into the country.
Yeah, or selling shoes.
Not,
Yeah, no,
not, nothing he says is compatible with economic growth and things getting any better. It's just doesn't.
well,
It
that's
just,
why to the point of the guy losing it in your store. Like, I'm sure there's a part of you where you're just kind of like, I hope you're right. Like, you are right. This,
I
what
said
you're,
to him actually. I
what
said,
you,
I said, I admire your optimism, and there's nothing that I would like more than you're right. Like I would love
yeah,
that. Like obviously.
like make the liberals liberal again. Like liberals used to like work.
I don't care. They're just words. Just make things better for everybody. Use what we have here in Canada, which is resources, and the world needs tons of it. And that's
Yeah,
good. But they're stuck in this ideological frame that just. I mean, could even understand if Carney is stuck in the ideological framework that he actually believes we're in a crisis, and this is not just a money grab for him, his billionaire buddies. But if he actually believed, and then the politicians would come out and say, because the only way it can be, truthfully, is there's no there's no change in the economy to like renewables. It's like they would need to deindustrialize. And I know the conspiracy is they're deindustrializing, and the some people would say, oh, there's clear here's the evidence that all the Western countries are trying to deindustrialize. But no one's openly saying that. This is all, cloak and dagger.
Well, they are with Germany, and like Spain and Portugal got kind of thrown under the bus with that power outage they had last week.
Yeah, but that's not a result of like people. Some people are saying deindustrialize. It's happening. But again, they're trying to get carbon. They're inadvertently also just stymieing any new growth, new development, new. Of course, you're going to go to like Texas where they're not going to be bothered with that business if you were going to build something.
Well, that's just that was true in Canada for the last like 40 years. We were always a little bit harder to work with than for a big business than the Americans were, and it's just been way worse. Like I remember saying that 10 years ago in Ontario, where it was like, if you have $1 billion, you can start in Michigan, New York, or Ontario. Well, why would you want to start in the place that has like 30 extra rules and random taxes and like green audits that could prohibit you from making your money? And, like obviously you're going to Michigan.
So is these guys' idea that are, these the legit ones, that are just talking about slowing down, to getting to a zero net economy or zero carbon economy, those ones, forget the crazy conspiracy ones that want us to be agrarian farmers at best. And just say like how do they even figure it's going to work? That what we're just going to switch to pure windmills, and we're just going to need less. We're going to become so like our insulation will be so thick that we can heat our pods with such small amount of energy that it will be no problem. Like, or do they? I don't know. Like, I don't get it.
I think they're going to bring in the chaos so they can usher more wealth upwards through picking up the bones. And then they're going to bring out the Tesla orbs. That if you have your microchip in the city, you can use the Tesla coil orb. It's a free energy power, but if you say the wrong thing about the government, it will also listen to you and tell them that, and then turn off. And if you're a good boy, you're gonna have your Tesla orb in 30 years. Yeah, I don't know, man. I agree. Like that's where it just doesn't make any sense, and it just seems like it honestly seems like Alex Jones has been right, where it's just like they're trying to destroy the middle class and like make like a one world serf class and then elites, like just that, and like a bureaucratic, technocratic, AI counting police state that counts every grain of sand that leaves your driveway and charges you a slight toll for that, so that nothing moves without them knowing about it, and that way they can count the carbon and make sure you're being a good person this month. And again, there's a case to be made for that Star Trek utopian vision if like we weren't like run by sociopaths. If it was
Yeah,
like Wayne Gretzky and Michael Jordan trying to do it.
I'm still not convinced of the sociopaths all behind. I
No, no,
still
no. I just mean like they clamor for the top naturally. That 2-3% of humanity that's just
for sure,
sociopathic.
but I mean, I feel that my gut instinct is that Carney believes his malarkey.
Well, I was thinking about that too, like because there was a good Tucker Carlson on this week, a lady talking about who worked for the Department of something or other. Oh, now there's a bunch of like secret bunkers all over the United States, like secret cities, and that's where the government's been funneling money all these years. And like I was thinking too, because like whether maybe it's like polar shifts or something crazy is gonna happen, but like I don't know. It's like if you're the elites and like some ancient knowledge that has been passed down forever, and you're like, we can't. There's like a reason they can't tell every common people. Maybe they won't want us panicking, and they just want to keep collecting like more apples. And like we're calm collecting apples now, but if we know what's going to happen in 20 years, we won't give them our apples anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they seem to be up to something, and it just seems to be collecting more wealth,
Oh, okay.
which is
Okay, but let me throw something else out. Okay, by every measurable metric, People on the planet have never been more well fed across the board. There's never been less war, brutality, slavery. There's been more calories, more education, more healthcare, even in the most dire of places than there ever has been, ever. But somehow, even though
We're
that's
miserable.
true, no, oh, that's a whole other episode. I'm, but that's all happened, and we've all been being controlled by these like evil goofballs behind the scenes. And then they wanted to do is attract all the wealth to themselves. Yet here we
Making us
go.
happy along the way. Which again, I agree. I agree. If you put yourself in the position of the ivory tower, there's a lot of times where you're like, you kind of draw the same conclusions. You're like, I guess you would want to do that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, so like I mean, I know the reason is to sell newspapers. It has to be like, oh, the child molesting Satanists are banding together. And again, I'm sure like with all rumors and this and that, there's some small elements of truth here or there. I'm sure there are Satanists who have plans to run the world. I'm sure they're billionaires who don't give a shit about people. I'm sure they're billionaires that all they want to do is their visions to help. I'm sure there's that whole
which
spectrum.
way or the other. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We're all represented, and probably it's a combination of human greed, natural human impulses, misunderstandings, um, quest for power, quest for virtue, virtue signal. Like I could make a list of 100 different motivations that are all happening at the same time, and they go in a big tumbler. Then they get shaken up by the cosmic bartender and poured out into a cocktail of who knows what, some good, some bad. That seems to me more likely than these multi-generational conspiracy skull and bones and Merovingian kings from who knows when having these secret plans when they're going to disappear into their bunkers under their, like, why would they even want that? Like, why would that life be better than what they have now? Like now they can do what they want, go wherever they want.
Obviously, if there is hundreds of bunkers and cities, supposedly, if that is true, is what you're referencing, obviously it's not going to be very hospitable up here at some point in the near future.
Yeah, not going to be very hospitable in the bunker either.
Not if you compare with your Tesla
Like
coils.
before, you know how it goes.
Yeah, things go awry. Yeah, no, I don't know, and that's where it just seems. I do agree with you that like if you think the government's up to something like nefarious, like those are the same people who can't really get parking downtown. They can't figure, they're not like I understand, but at the end of the day, I'm just saying I was just pontificating on like things people are discussing, and at the end of the day,
I'm not linking you to these opinions you're sharing with us. I'm nor blaming you for them existing. I'm just we're just trying to figure out what's going on, and we can't. It's like literally a mystery. Like every aspect, I would say over the last, like leading up to the election, I was like, okay. I mean, again, I'm not a big Pierre fan. Couldn't care less in some regards. I'm more interested in the theater of it all. But even trying to see the moving parts of the machine is becoming impossible. Like just when I think I've got somehow figured out what Trump's doing, what he's got going on, he switches gears, and then all of a sudden is like, yeah, Carney, what a gentleman. And then and then he,
well, they do say if I may, I think there was like they do say like true authoritarian technocracy is when the people are mad, but they're not even really sure who's in charge. And I think we're kind of there. We're like, you can't pinpoint it. Like, I think we can agree that, like, if you know the person's name, they're not the top of anything, type of thing. Like, they might be the top of the
Trump,
thing you know about.
I guess. And I mean, I know we've all heard the thing where, Vladimir says, like, oh, I don't deal with the presidents, I deal with men in black suits. I believe, again, even look at this USAID funneling money to all these like shadow organizations. And we've all heard the true stories and the conspiracy stories of CIA. We all know there are obviously competing.
Well, to the Putin point, there is a case to be made that you wouldn't want to do deals with a country that was going to flip flop every 4 years. So it's like we actually would need to give reassurances at a higher level to these like dictators. Like, don't worry, like we know Jimmy's running the place now, and who knows in 4 years, but like we'll still be here. We agree to this. Don't worry, we'll take care of them then. Just get this done. So, but again, it all comes down to the like hoping that like I think there was like ideally when you first find out about like war movies and like spies and CIA, you assume they're doing it for the greater good. And like from what we've seen in the last little while with even just like corporate America and Canada and whatnot, it doesn't seem like the greater good is what we think the greater good is anymore.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just throwing out there that that's the headline that gets us all riled up and gets us to read the story. But the truth of it is, things have never been better.
Oh,
So this, the, the system itself produces the greatest good, even if it does have a bunch of billionaires at the top.
I'm a capitalist. Oh, but again, I think there's a difference between like I think we can all agree like I think this is the way I like to put it. Like I don't fault Bill Gates' wealth. Like he definitely should have a lot of money for like Microsoft, like what that company did for advancement in the world with Windows and all that. That's grand. Like he definitely helped humanity step forward, right? But like if Bill Gates made the same amount of money because he paid for the guy to run for office who then signed the deal with him and then just got a backroom deal, like it's like okay, I don't like that kind of billionaire either. And I think a lot of people when they hear billionaires, they picture that backroom deal guy and they don't think about the actual people that
and
produce the product that people want. But
yeah,
I think we should end it there and like give the people
I'm going to
wanting
ask
more.
one question,
Oh, shoot.
and end this with this whole episode here was just a ramble of fire, boom, 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 just this, that, and another thing. So, for what what should we be looking for, in your opinion, over the next month? What's the story we should be watching? I mean, obviously, it's Alberta secession. That's always going to be sitting there in some capacity because it's going to be exciting for the people to talk about. But what I don't know. I don't even know the question to ask. Like,
Well, obviously, cardi corruption, but I think maybe we should just focus on like you said, like a lot of the world's going to vote, so we could just talk about a variety of like what looks to be like overreaching government issues that like a lot of commentators already commentate on because they are kind of like you know when you see those English bobbies showing up arresting the 7-year-old autistic girl for saying a mean word. No, that makes that stuff like that
okay,
and
so
and cardi corruption.
do we want to see as part of the carny corruption? Do we want to get into any of this WEF stuff? Sort of do a bit of a deep dive or any of that type of thing and take a look and see.
I don't think so. Only in the sense that I think that's been done, by more reputable people. And it's out there for like anybody that would be listening to us would already be well aware of that, and anybody that would want to open their eyes to that wouldn't be coming to us
No,
for
no,
that.
that I'm just saying for ourselves. My point is, I'm not. I'm more concerned about myself. Myself understand this. I've listened to some of the people. I'm not saying I've heard the worst case scenarios of what the WEF is, but I said I hold a more. I'm less conspiratorial. I'm more along the lines of they're a bunch of big dumb goofs who got together in a room and they like to jerk each other off, psychologically and philosophically and talk about the greater good and bring money to themselves through these that feel great about how they're giving to the world. That seems to me more in line with what I've seen in my real life as opposed to them being multi, you know, faceted genius, you know, evil people who are going to be.
Blue Bloods from Planet X. Yeah, no, exactly. Like I'm down for all of that.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to look into I would try to do maybe something like Carney fact or fiction, maybe a comparison like that. That's would be give him a fair shake. Maybe this guy's zealousness that came into my shop is is well placed. And Carney is going to be our savior. So I'm going to take a look at that.
Yeah, and I'm gonna probably look at issues involving like freedom and liberty around the world, and like obviously the goings on of Carney's backroom deals or whatever, or lack of Canadian support or more, or actually Canadian support. Probably take a look at the Canadian lens, and then I think both you and I will have something to say about whatever Trump happens to be going on or happening down south of the border.
He's always there for us. That's
Trust
it.
him for a thing.
Thank you.
Wow.